Let's name the top 12 film foods that I want to eat for movies/shows. These decisions are based on part style, part practicality, and part from my gut.
2 scoops, sir?
2, make it 3. I'm not driving.
Number 12.
They're flocking this way.
The next food up is the abandoned ice cream that John Hammond tearfully eats in Jurassic Park. This is more of a status thing than, I guess, the ice cream looking conventionally good. You can see it from afar through those opaque tubs. But we know that John spared no expense. I'm seeing different flavors there. Looks like maybe a banana split or strawberry. Got chocolate, vanilla, smaller containers that might be more specialized flavors. It's all melting, so you better get to it quick. This is a pinnacle part of the movie where he describes the flea circus inspiring him to build Jurassic Park. It's kind of on the fringes of a Last Supper or maybe some kind of apocalypse meal.
It's good. At no expense.
After grandson Hammond goes flying, they really worked up an appetite, and there's tons of desserts on that table. This looks like a room temperature delight. I guess the chefs cooked this and then they left. I spy the room temperature dessert table. Imagine if John Hammond just decided to hide behind this table the entire time, and he would have reunited with his grandkids sooner. He would have just popped out from behind the desserts and said, "Hello!" Do you really want to visit any other Jurassic Park than one that was abruptly abandoned? But much like Macaulay Culkin, dinner is interrupted by a couple of raptors. The presentation is nice. It's a stress dinner. A meal that's been interrupted by animals that want to eat you is a meal that cannot make it on this list. But man, does it deserve to be mentioned. Is that coconut? Does little bro have brain damage? That ear can't be a good sign. Is he going to start shoveling the cheesecake into his mouth with those metal flappers? Those murals are nice. Makes me feel like I'm at the Rainforest Cafe.
I happen to be a vegetarian.
Jell-O's not a vegetarian product. The official Jurassic Park victory champagne isn't such a sad sip.
For a further 3 years.
We just got our funding for 3 more years. Technically, he's just paying for us to play in the dirt because they've already got that Bamo Dino DNA. Their job has become the equivalent of digging up chicken bones when there's chickens running around.
More like a 6-foot turkey.
That is a sweet 90s shirt.
Who's hungry?
Alejandro's prepared a delightful menu for us. Chilean sea bass, I believe.
Now, I would gobble up that Chilean sea bass during the corporate dinner. Then I would follow it up by shoving the gold-trimmed Jurassic Park. Now, the ice cream is more of an icon because you can tell friends the sad melted ice cream from Jurassic Park. Whereas this table could only be labeled as catered dessert the kids skirt by. I guess green Raptor Jell-O does have a ring to it, but spoon to spoon, I'd rather the expensive ice cream.
Feeding them.
Imagine running from velociraptors on a belly full of cantaloupe and cheesecake. I'd just roll over and die. Okay, what's little bro Red Rags doing right now? Not helping. It appears the ear bleed has gotten to him. You're not making fun of my hacker powers now, are you, you little pretentious dino encyclopedia?
Shooter! Shooter!
Number 11. Next up is the soccer birthday cake that caused the divorce in Mrs. Doubtfire. Old Robin Williams throws a party for his 12-year-old son. Sally Field says, "No party, just cake," because of the grades. Look at the smear on that cake. I bet that pony had a great time on set that day. They just set that horse loose on that dessert inside of that house. You think they did more than one take? The huffing on this pony alone is enough to tell you it's the good stuff. How fortunate it's already grass. I'm thinking carrot cake under buttercream icing. Those donkey lips gliding over that piped grass, it makes me hungry. Even the smear on that black icing. When have you ever wanted black icing? Today, thanks. While we call this the cake that causes the divorce, through my rewatch, I realized Sally has doe eyes at the beginning of the movie before she even sees the cake get demolished.
He did?
This marriage has been deteriorating for a while. All the kids are like, screw you, mom, dad rules. Do you dance on the table with me? Dad got me a party. All you got me is a soccer cake. I hate soccer.
Aware that it's illegal to possess animals of a barnyard nature.
I love how the cop acts like it's their fault. I bet, can you check, please, with the mobile petting zoo? They operate in this city and they should know the zoning issues they may or may not arise. I don't have the goose toting truck. They do. They got a better shot at this food than maybe the sad dad divorced Chinese dinner would have made this list.
Hi.
It eventually evolves from takeout Chinese to spaghetti and salad. More food in this movie that comes to mind is the official Mrs. Doubtfire lemon meringue face treatment.
Hello!
It looks a little more edible in the fridge. It's more solid, like a leftover wedding cake. And the very next cut, it's a watery mess dripping down the chin. The cup of tea comes with the cake.
It's a little cappuccino. Oh, there you go. Lovely to meet you.
Oh, look, they have the same hairdo. Love that for them. So Robin saves James Bond after trying to poison 007.
Help is on the way, dear.
And out pops out another iconic food from this movie. Put another shrimp on the Barbie. That belongs on a t-shirt. It turns out Mrs. Doubtfire is a 6-course movie. If you include the lobsters and the fake dinner that was secretly takeout. Technically, we have to stop somewhere or we can go forever. Those oranges look pretty juicy. Clearly, the winner is the horse carrot cake, destined to represent this movie on the food court. I may have number 10.
And his name is John C.
All right, it's the honey butter baked goodness from Lord of the Rings, Lembas bread.
Lembas bread.
Straight from the mythical forest of Lothlorien and from Galadriel herself. I think this bread makes you live longer. If it doesn't, it should. Not unlike the honey butter chicken biscuits at Whataburger after 1 a.m. Good enough to get ostracized from your Shire pals. It has innate powers. The Zenzu bean of Middle-earth. Some say it's the fuel that got Frodo from the Shire to Mount Doom. The Lembas bread is the best looking bread in Middle-earth. If we take a gander at the Hobbiton bread, it looks like it was picked up at Panera Bread. We go over to Brie, where the humans are baking bread in the pub. I think that's from the Walmart bakery.
I'll go beer inside this tub.
Whatever shortcomings the human bread might have, it still sounds a lot better than the Urukai bread.
We ain't had nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
Lembas bread is supposed to be the best food for you. In the books, a wafer feeds you for an entire day. Only on rare occasions is it given to non-elves. By description, the Lembas bread is supposed to be light brown on the outside and the color of cream on the inside. And in the movies, Legolas demonstrates that the tiniest bite can fill the stomach of a full-grown man.
One small bite is enough to fill the stomach of a grown man. How many did you eat? 4.
And of course, we established in the books, it takes the entire wafer to get the full man belly effect. I suppose this makes it more dramatic for the big screen, more hee-hees and ha-has when the 2 teenager hobbits decide to black hole enough food for an army. Naturally, this is an extended scene. It didn't make the theatrical cut. This bread doesn't go stale. The elves also call it whey bread. They use it like cram, although they admit it's much better. In the books, Gimli thought it was cram until he tasted it and found out it was sweet, and then he finished the whole thing. Elves are vegetarian, which means I think they could still put honey butter on that. Lembas bread, or elven whey bread, are wrapped in malorn leaves, which is from a very large type of tree that gets clear golden leaves in the fall. It only grows in Lothlorien. Galadriel gives Samwise a small little box of soil, the malorn tree nut inside, so there's actually one malorn tree that grows in the Shire. Frodo claims he can feel life coursing through. The Lembas bread shows up in all 3 Lord of the Rings movies. The Fellowship mentions the Lembas bread in the extended scene. The Two Towers mentions the Lembas bread as Sam riffs on it a little bit on the edge of Mordor. And then the third time we see Lembas bread is in The Return of the King, where Dobby sets up Sam and hilariously throws all of the Lembas bread off the cliff, utilizing his hot dog fingers and shifting blame onto the Goonie. Frodo is convinced that Sam is a oyster-eating walrus due to Gollum and his clever elven ration tricks. The Lembas bread is one of the most recognizable, the most useful. It's an elven superfood and is even positioned to impress Samwise himself.
But this other stuff, it's not bad.
Don't cross Mordor without it. Don't let Dobby sneak into it and realize it's a once-in-a-lifetime gift from the elves. Lembas bread.
And his name is John C.
Number 9.
Wow! Reptar? A candy bar?
There's many foods in the Nickelodeon show Rugrats that tantalizes my senses. You've got the Reptar cereal that Angelica assaults the mascot for. She's got to fight for her right. I imagine the consistency is like Captain Crunch but dyed green. Another notable food item on Rugrats is Ice Cream Mountain. Everybody loves Ice Cream Mountain.
Sure did. I knew there was a whole mountain made of ice cream.
You've got the food bully who uses snacks as a way to torture other kids on the playground.
Junk food kid, the meanest toddler around.
Fudge bar slap stamp.
I've been branded!
Would you look at that? Rugrats is even able to make sunflower seeds look good. This episode's hilarious. The babies eventually have to follow the trail of sunflower seeds, so they make sure that in every scene with the adults, you see Stu over there noshing on some sunflowers. Look at all that 90s fresh air. But I choose the Reptar bar, not only for its texture, but it also has its own jingle.
And it swirled and stirred and rippled and beaten and sweetened till you can't stop eating.
And that's the mechanism you need to reel any 90s kid in.
Get caught up in the crossfire.
All right, and if we go over here on Rugrats Wiki, because why wouldn't there be? Looks like chocolate and nuts and caramel and green stuff, which is food-colored frosting. That's what Angelica said as well.
A Reptar bar is chocolate and nuts and caramel and green stuff and...
Frosting unilaterally blows out the palate. It's going to turn that chocolate into a box of tasteless cardboard. Apparently they developed this into a real product, and truthfully, that's about 28 years too late. I don't think they stuck with the show recipe. They do have green frosting. This person said nasty, and that's all I need. Reported to be gross. I can see they took some shortcuts here, because this thing was supposed to be a Reptar shaped, almost like an Easter bunny, supposedly filled with green frosting. I'm going to challenge that green dyed frosting. I feel like they just made that up later and pretended it was part of the lore to match the product. Angelica suspiciously doesn't mention it being frosting.
Chocolate and nuts and caramel and green stuff
And I know they don't care about continuity because they sure didn't put caramel and nuts in there. I was thinking it was a green, tangy, citrusy, gel-like, sugary, whatever's inside the fruit gushers.
They'll really turn your head.
Whoa, man, I got a split.
In 2018, they updated the formula. Good lord, that's what we need. And Reptar on ice. They even have blue filling instead of green.
What's a dinosaur to do when there's kids on the ice?
They made the cereal too. We don't even have to hypothesize whether it's Captain Crunch or not. My extensive experience with Fruit Loops tells me this does not turn your milk green. And that's such a cop-out. You keep adding green food dye to those lumps of corn syrup sugar cubes until the sewers run green. They should have followed the original recipe.
Sugar, benzosorbate, artificial sweeteners, rehydrogenated cardboard bits. Hey, D, there's no actual food in here.
Quite frankly, I want the other cereal. That product development team only had to deliver 3 things.
What's this? They're round
They're mean, they turn milk green.
This whole thing has spurred a slew of home recipes, and I'm not sure if I agree with this one. They made the middle marshmallow. Bring me the green, tangy gusher gel.
Booming with a big taste of fruity juice in the middle.
I've fallen in too deep. It's time to punch out. Number 8. The Big Kahuna Burger from Pulp Fiction.
Big Kahuna Burger. That's that Hawaiian burger joint.
Now, if we're looking at this thing objectively, it looks like an okay burger. Nothing special. Now that I see it in his hands, I could see that it's a good-sized burger. Larger than a dollar burger. It looks homemade. It looks well made. It could be a sleeper. They could have some kind of secret sauce, some kind of seasoning. They could source their beef somewhere. And the reviews are in.
This is a tasty burger.
But really, it's the pressure that Samuel L. Jackson puts into the room.
The cornerstone of any nutritious breakfast.
It's the tension. The Sprite tastes better. I would trade the Sprite for the $5 milkshake.
Did you just order a $5 shake?
Mm-hmm.
As for that $5 price tag, that was a lot for the 90s. Counting inflation, that's a $15 shake. Just on paper, it looks like a good milkshake.
Yummy.
Uma does order a
Durwood Kirby burger.
and it's not as good as the Big Kahuna Burger, which looks like it has a sweet Hawaiian roll as a bun.
That's that Hawaiian burger joint.
This is a murder burger that goes well with the life-risking endeavor that you may be partaking upon. The stakes were this high for me on either side. The adrenaline would be pumping, the brain would be dumping every known chemical all throughout my body, and I would probably be very not hungry.
When I lay my
Regardless, get your Big Kahuna Burger today.
I can't usually get them because my girlfriend's a vegetarian, which pretty much makes me a vegetarian, but I do love the taste of a good burger.
Honorable mention. I'm putting a Goofy movie in here only as an honorable mention because while the pizza is worthy of wanting to eat, my face looks exactly like this when I open up a box of pizza. This is the most uninspired answer as it's the most frequent. This is the answer that pops up on every TMZ, Bored Panda article. They're gonna talk about this pizza. It's cheesy, it's easy, and it looks extra greasy.
tie the extension cord, you hardly even notice it.
Hey Pete, this looks a little more involved than an extension cord. Why is there water leaking out? Is that a sewer line? Why is there two? I want to add that Pete and PJ are cats.
Okay. Great!
Look at this mess they made. Pizza, face down, and the carpet. Nothing like disappointing dad with a big old pizza mess. There's no way he's going to get that deposit back with the pizza and the carpet. Good job. Vacation's canceled.
Beat it, doofus! This is the stupidest vacation!
And a Goofy movie does cheese, and does cheese well.
Cheddar!
It even establishes the famous cheese landmark.
It's the Leaning Tower of Cheesa.
Thanks, Pauly Shore.
Hey!
These two are acting real indignant with the cheese eating, but the sequel, we've got the boys sitting down and having a cheers to a plate of nachos. And at this point, I'm positive we've reached memeing status. You're telling me everyone's down with bathing in cheese? What happened between Max and his old high school girlfriend? Sorry, baby. My first and only love was the cheese the whole time. I'm convinced when they made this movie, they just went back to the original and drew parallels between the two movies, starting with the food. So there's a dismal breakfast in the first movie, and now it's turned into a heaping pile of steaming pancakes complete with fruit, orangeade, muffins, and Mrs. Potts. And of course, I think the melted cheese parallel, we hit that already. The can versus the nachos. Num num num. First, they ridiculed Pauly Shore, and then they joined him. Pauly continues to be a trendsetter. He has the piping hot pie right there, oozing. It has mushrooms now. I'm split 50-50 which one's better. It's hard to believe they were memeing this, but there's no way this is a coincidence. There's only 3 food items. They're all replicated in here, but the pizza's the big one. And Pauly Shore does everything but wink into the camera when he pulls it out, and then he eats the pizza like a real Muppet. I guess those white gloves are good for soaking up the pizza grease. Dang, PJ pulling that dog dime. Want to know how that happened?
That those with large stature are overlooked, except by vultures, with no regard to the depth of their souls.
Oh.
I have never seen a Disney face like that.
Anyone overlook such a bundle of yesness. Let's dance.
That cat's gonna fuck. During the age of the internet, I'm very much used to TV shows and movies responding to the feedback they get from their audience with the internet. This one surprises me because it feels like they're responding to feedback, but it baffles me where they would find that feedback. Did they use fan magazines? Bat Boy, News Weekly, or Smoke Signals? Did they use a GeoCities website or watched AOL chat rooms? Regardless, they were inspired by the goof floor. They were essentially memeing before there was memes. Maybe this pizza was making it on the magazine news articles.
It's pretty scrumptious. Scrumptious.
And that brings me to Pauly Shore. I often like to think about the downfall of Pauly Shore.
A little smoking.
Or was there really an upfall? Seems like he had a character that appealed to children.
Oh, hey, Robin!
And then those children quickly grew, and the adults always had disdain for him.
I'm a unique weasel, David.
Regardless, his star rose and fell quickly. He's no Adam Sandler. Pauly Shore was kind of phasing out in 1994 when a Goofy movie came out. So you know by the time 2000 rolled around, America was less than enthused to receive him.
Your cool balances out his fool.
Okay, whatever.
If I could make you stop and take a look at me instead of just walking by.
As we established before, PJ is a cat, and I think the Beret Girl is a dog, which really makes me wonder what their first litter is going to look like. Yeah. Number 7. You know it. You love it. It's the oatmeal cookie from Honey, We Shrunk the Kids. This scene hit me like a brick when I was 5 years old. Never have I been more hungrier to scarf down one of these processed oatmeal cream cookies, a product placement, before I knew what product placements were. For some reason, I think these would taste better in the 90s. It's all that much sweeter having to travel across the yard, exhausted, starving, like a contestant from Naked and Afraid. So this big, fine cookie, one of the main draws is that you could control the cream. You always wanted more cream. It was before double stuffed Oreos came out. It was before Oops All Berries came out. Maybe before they sold Marshmallow Puff by the jar. So the big fantasy here is like you can control how much cream goes in that oatmeal cream pie. And of course, I'm going to do a 10-to-1 ratio. Looking at it as an adult, looks really crumbly, sandy. It looks like it'll probably going to be really gritty in your tiny little shrunken mouth. If the pollen is too big to trigger his allergies, then definitely their mouths are too tiny to be eating anything but maybe algae on the underside of a log. The cereal looks stressful. Not only does it look like the really boring Cheerios, but there's a little boy inside there.
What's the story, Wishbone? What's this you're dreaming of?
The river kind of looks like the chocolate milk, maybe the watered down Yoo-hoo consistency on Willy Wonka.
Please, I beg you, Augustus! My sausage!
And what's with this beginning, this Raggedy Ann looking 70s cartoon?
We'll be your friends.
Uh-huh.
You will?
Sure.
Did they figure out they'd have to hit us with a cartoon immediately, or we just wander off as kids? Who are these children? These aren't even the main characters to the movie. That's not in the movie. I don't remember the man eating housefly. The dog doesn't look like that. No pencils were involved. This is like the borrowers from hell. And I love how they just suffocate them in saran wrap inside this junk mail, and it snaps right to what the value is for that. And large things fascinate me. I don't know why he continues to sleep outside the Lego. I know there's space inside. They use the cookie to domesticate humanity's first ant. The ant is split between stop motion and a puppet. Man, does that puppet look good. I wouldn't even want it computer animated today. Keep it a puppet. The ant getting its exoskeleton punctured like a Coke can and not making it destroyed me as a little child. It's really my supervillain origin story because the adults in the room caught me crying and thought it was quite a knee slapper that I got emotional. I'm sorry, I'm 5. When you see my visage hovering over the flames of your burning village, think of that moment and that little boy.
Shoo!
Night 3 in the Lego house, they have an alarm system. They're all sleeping on top of each other. My understanding of physics is someone's getting crushed down there by hip bones. These neighborhood kids were strangers to each other, even though their fence was waist high. Seems like they've been looking at each other for years now. It's strange that the parents are on familiar enough terms that the dad feels comfortable enough to offer Rick morning beatings just over noise. But somehow these kids don't know each other. They're lightly hostile.
Maybe you could be the base. Maybe you could be the mound.
That might have something to do with it. The 2 young brothers are slightly different ages. They probably wouldn't be buddies at school. But I'd like to think that they came together with this adventure. And it was the oatmeal cookie that really cemented that bond. It was their first feast together. It turns out that the treasure was not the little Miss Debbie snack, but it was the friendships that we made on the journey along the way. It confused me why she bought a turkey when Mom came back from her hiatus. It turns out to celebrate the kids returning back to normal. There you go, Wishbone. And this has been another episode of Brenton's TV. This had to be split in 2 parts. I did want to click publish sometime this year. Keep your eyes peeled. And until next time, TV watchers, until next time.